So hopefully you're still with me at this point and you understand what we've spoken about so far with carbohydrates and how they break down in your body. Now, to move to the next section, we need to really understand how they can impact your health and well-being as well. So, when carbohydrates break down, they raise your blood sugar levels, and obviously the hormone insulin is released and allows that blood sugar to be utilized in the cells. Great, that's what we want. The reason why people get a little bit concerned about carbohydrates is because over time, if you overconsume simple carbohydrates and you live a very sedentary life, so you just sit around all day and do sod all, then what can happen is you can build up resistance to the hormone insulin. So it doesn't really get produced. Problem there is it means the gateways aren't opened for that blood sugar levels, those blood sugar levels to drop and for that sugar to go into the cells. So those blood sugar levels remain high for prolonged periods of time. This can then impact your body in multiple ways, but overall health and well-being can absolutely be hammered from blood vessels being damaged. Things like feet, eyes, all that sort of stuff can be damaged long term. And this is essentially moving into the realms of diabetes. So when you're pre-diabetic, it means you've built up a lot of resistance to insulin, usually due to sedentary lifestyle and tons of simple carbohydrates. And if you continue that lifestyle, that can lead into diabetes, and then overall health and well-being can really drop. And then you absolutely need to start taking insulin to be able to manage your blood sugar levels, which is not what we want. That's where people get a little bit worried about carbohydrates. However, in an active individual who's training, exercising, who isn't sedentary, and who uses carbohydrates at the right times to fuel sessions, isn't going to be negatively impacted by this. What happens when we exercise and we train our muscles is we become more sensitive to insulin. So our muscles can take on those carbohydrates a lot easier. So that insulin's just really sensitive. It reacts, it goes in, opens up the gateways for that blood sugar to be utilized in the cells and to be utilized for energy. So by actually exercising, resistance training, and consuming carbohydrates around exercise, we're essentially training our body to utilize them in the way that they're supposed to be used. So don't be afraid of using carbohydrates. Absolutely, they are very vital for performance. And to understand them in more detail, it's a good idea to check out the glycemic index, which I'll pop into another resource just in this section. The glycemic index explains how quickly certain foods will raise your blood sugar levels. So essentially how quick they will break down and digest and break down into sugars and go into your bloodstream and raise that blood sugar. So that will give you a good idea of what foods are classed as simple carbohydrates and what foods are classed as more complex carbohydrates that might be a little bit slower to break down. And from that index, you can then use that to understand what's a good pre-workout meal with carbohydrates, what's good to consume during a session, what's good to consume following a session based on the speed in which it will break down, what's good to consume outside of those session periods where you just want to replenish carbohydrates and consume plenty of fiber for overall health and well-being. The glycemic index is a super important resource to go through and have a look at.